Welcome everybody to episode 65 of Dork Tunes. So this week we have our esteemed guest. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to let him introduce himself. There you go.
That's very nice. Very nice of you to call me esteemed as well. I feel very welcome. Hi everyone, I'm Barry Topping. I'm a composer and sound designer. I've worked on a lot of stuff. I've been a composer for 15 years, so I've worked on a whole bunch of stuff. But most recently, I worked on a video game called Paradise Killer, which just came out in September for PC and Nintendo Switch, and that's definitely been the biggest project I've been involved with to date. But I've written for a bunch of other games, a lot of small kind of mobile stuff. I've written for a lot of shorts as well, animated shorts, that kind of stuff. So yeah, just love to write music.
And do you write music every day?
Yes and no. There was a long period. Anyone that writes music knows, like, you go through. I kind of go through waves of like inspiration, but that was one of the things that was great about Paradise Killer is we had like 6 months, really only 6 months to write an hour and a half of music.
Okay.
So at that point, that was every day new music, which was amazing. But since then I've kind of slowed down a bit, so I'm kind of trying to slowly ease myself back into it now. So
I think from all the kind of furore around Paradise Killer, it just exploded, hasn't it?
it's been amazing. We knew that it was going to be good when we were making it, but it's exceeded my expectations in terms of reach. Because I've always been involved with stuff that I've been happy with. It's been great work, but this is the first thing I would say has been like successful with a big S. So, and it's only been 6 weeks as well. So. Sorry, say that again.
It's kind of put you on the map almost.
That was the hope and the plan. I would love to be doing this full time, so we'll see what happens from here. But
definitely. I mean, when I've spoken to people like David Houston and Richard Jakes, and their kind of processes. When, like for example, David did Thomas Was Alone, he only got that opportunity from basically going to absolutely everything and anything, to network, and met Mike, and they kind of hit it off. And he did that soundtrack basically with like just a basic sort of Yamaha keyboard and a laptop, and look where he is now. He's like nominated for a BAFTA, Ivor Novello. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that was kind of similar how I got into Paradise Killer. I knew Ollie and Phil from other things just for a couple of years, and they kind of quit their day jobs to start Kaizen Gameworks, their studio. And it just so happened that not only did I know the guys, but Paradise Killer was like the perfect project for me in terms of where my writing style was at. When the project started, it was this kind of stuff that I wanted to be writing anyway.
And you said you had 6 months. Was that?
Yeah, basically there was a wee bit of pre-production, but from the time where this is, because what I did was I took reduced hours at my day job. I'm a video producer. It's my day job, so there was enough work there that I could go part-time I think it was part-time for 3 months. So yeah, I started that in January, and really from January to the end of May, that's when all the music was written. Then we had a couple of months to tidy things up, but yeah, it was a 6-month process.
And how have you found it since it's been released?
It's been amazing. Like I've been constantly kind of overwhelmed by just being involved in the process, because it's so much work when you're doing it, but then it's a different kind of work when it's done. Because I mean, it's less work, but it takes up more brain space almost, because I've been trying to engage with it, because I know that you're not guaranteed any successes. So like I really want to be immersed in the success of this game while it's happening, to get the absolute most from it that I can. In terms of whether there's stuff to learn from it or whether it's just purely to be there to enjoy it. So yeah, it's been taking up a lot of brain space in terms of trying to stay engaged with what people are saying about it. But it's been amazing. It's any artist's dream to have people say nice stuff about their.
And I think the nice thing about it as well is that it's not just people who are playing the games, it's other composers.
Yeah, no, that feels great too. The respect of one's peers is obviously another massive plus point. It's just been great. Seeing people as well who've not necessarily played the game, but have come to the game through the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I'm such a strong believer in like how much a soundtrack can add to the finished product of a game. And I mean, there's so many cases now where we know that if a soundtrack is good, people will buy the game off the back of it. So to see people do that has been like incredibly good. Really
I
happy.
mean, it's funny you should say that. Like, there are certain games you could never imagine that have a different soundtrack than what they do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, like Journey, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, you know, Thomas Was Alone, Horizon Zero Dawn, even to a degree, you know, crazy. And I know from what you've said, I've been brought to games, certainly even just this week, this past week or so, through the soundtrack, because I heard A Short Hike, the soundtrack for that, really beautiful. I ended up buying it on vinyl actually,
Cool.
and I'm definitely going to be buying the game next week.
Yeah, I
It's
think
how it happens.
yeah, it's a game is the full package of what a game can offer is so wide. I don't think it's necessarily a new thing because I feel this way about old games too, where the soundtrack can be what pulls you in. But I think now more than ever, there's more of a market for people to be fans of the soundtrack, and that's partly to do with how great the fans of music are, how great music lovers are, but also there's like a sort of infrastructure network of like labels putting out video game music. And even the small time I've been involved in it, it's so different from when I was playing in bands and trying to get stuff released. People genuinely are just doing it because they love the music. There's like nothing cynical about it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I started podcasting like 10 years ago, and I've done it throughout the 10 years, you know, on and off, as I said. But I've done it because I love doing it. You know, it's not because I get any financial reward from it. I get nothing, you know. But I'm not bitter about it. You know, it's
Yeah,
offered
of course not.
some incredible experiences. You know, and I can count people like Austin Wintry and Jessica Curry and David Houston and Joe from Flight as, you know, good friends, and and some experiences, and even like Gareth Coker. Gareth invited me down to Air Studios last year in December to watch the recording for Ori and the Will o' the Wisps. And that was, you know, I've said it loads of times, it was possibly the highlight of my life. It was incredible to be stood there and watching these incredible players playing that music, and knowing that you were somehow in a really strange way part of it just blows my mind. I remember standing in the room while they're recording, and you could do that as long as you didn't kind of make any noise or move. I remember just standing there and just held my breath until they finished work, until they finished doing what they were doing, and it just was incredible. And you know, and I went away and bought the vinyl, and you know, every time I listen to it, I think I was there. I was there at that moment, you know, when certain pieces are played, and it just blows my mind. And I think that's incredible. And I think you're very right. People who come to, you know, video game music and the soundtracks, this sounds bad to say, but in a way they're almost rabid for it because they're so into it. Like I'm part of a video game music vinyl collectors Facebook page, and they go mental for it. Like if something is announced, they know, and they're all over it, and they're like, you know, and if you don't buy it right then, you're not going to get it, basically.
I think part of that's to do with kind of what I was saying is about how much there is to a game to get invested in, because anyone that loves media, like you can love films, you love music, you love games, but there's so much about games. There's a story, there's music, there's a visual style. It has everything that a lot of other media does, only I feel like there's much more potential to be invested in it. And I feel that way about games too. It's like all the things that I've ever hyper fixated on are all video games pretty much. So,
but also I think when you play something, you can get that kind of emotional connection because maybe you were in that position before. You know, maybe you've experienced what that character is experiencing, or you know, that is, you know, massive. I mean, have you played Florence?
No, I've not actually.
Kevin Penkin did the soundtrack. It's really good. It's really, really short. It's probably about an hour and a half tops.
Mm.
But the kind of subject matter about relationships, really.
Yeah, I know what it's about. Yeah.
It's really beautifully done, and it's quite touching in parts. And you're like, I've been there, I've done that, and you're like, ow, I know how that feels. And yeah, definitely. I think that kind of emotional connection is really important for kind of the person at the other side who's not the composer. So the player, the listener, whoever, you know.
Well, yeah, it's the way that the way that you connect to stuff in a game as well
Mm.
is the way that you connect with the music related to the stuff in the game that you've
Mhm.
connected with too, definitely, I think.
Yeah,
So yeah, whether a game is taking you away somewhere else or taking you inside yourself, it's really making a deep impression, and I think that's why music can kind of sneak in beside that.
definitely. I mean, I bought, The Last Guardian on PlayStation
Yeah.
4. I bought that years ago, and I started playing it, and I got to a point, and I got stuck basically, and I got really frustrated. So I just put it on the shelf and forgot about it for ages, for probably a year or more. And I went back to it last year, and pushed myself and got through that bit, and then when it was like, right, I'm going to finish this. And it's only the second ever game for me to sit and physically sob for about 10-15 minutes at the end of it. It was one of
Yes,
the most beautiful
it
things
does do that.
ever played. Yeah, it's really frustrating with the controls at times, but my God, that payoff at the end.
I think that's part of it as well. The frustration is part of your relationship with Trico almost
Mm,
playing that game. So yeah, I think that definitely added to it for me. But yeah, it pulls your strings, that game, in a big way.
definitely.
Like so.
Yeah. The other game was Everybody's Gone to the Rapture.
Mm.
It's just really special. That's probably my favorite game of the generation.
Ah, cool.
Mm. And then just under that is Bloodborne.
Yeah. I see. Bloodborne's emotional too, but just in a different way. So
So good. I had a I had a bit of a not well accident, if you want to call it that. My launch PlayStation 4 died during the summer, just completely. So I lost nearly 7 years of saves.
mm.
Yeah, Bloodborne, all the DLC, everything. So I've had to start from scratch again.
I had
But
to. I've got a launch PS4 as well, but I had to stop playing it because it's so like I played Final Fantasy VII Remake. I had
mhm,
to play the entire thing with headphones on because my PlayStation is so loud to the point
yeah,
where I
yeah,
just don't play anymore.
so loud. I had a friend fix mine. He he took apart and did whatever he needs to do. He said it
Yeah.
was disgusting. It was so filthy. And then when I got it back, it was brilliant for about 2 weeks, and then just went.
Mm.
And then I gave it to him back again to see if he says I'll fix it. And then he texted me and just said, no, I can't fix it. It's dead. So
God rest its soul. Eh?
no. So I came back from his house with literally just a bag of just useless plastic and metal.
It's just in time for the PS5 as well.
Yeah.
I think built-in redundancy is definitely a thing. We were just talking about getting a new TV, and a day later, my TV got that horrible pink rash of pixels across it. So they definitely know they have to.
Well, we've just got our first 4K HDR TV, and it's all very fancy to me. We because the old TV it didn't have any of the apps and stuff,
Oh yeah.
so it's like wow, this is magic.
Uh, I'll be making the jump to 4K as well.
Mm,
I'm not expecting it to blow my mind, to be honest, but I guess that'll be nice. So.
it's nice. I have to admit, it's really,
Is
really.
it? Honestly, I don't think it'd be that much of a difference, but it's
Oh
definitely
yeah,
noticeable, is it?
definitely.
Right, I guess we'll see then.
So are you currently working on anything, or I know obviously we've got NDAs coming out of our ears in this industry.
Yeah, constantly have projects on the go of varying sizes. A lot of different. Like I say, I'm getting back to writing music now, and I have 2 or 3 smaller things on the go. But I'm still kind of waiting for my next big project. I'm not really sure what that's going to be, but I just have to wait and see what happens, I guess.
So how was your writing process for Paradise Killer? Was it different from the processes that you've done before, or?
It was in a way that the main thing was how much freedom I had. Outside the initial brief, it was just a case of submitting demos and getting them approved. And when I say demos, it was sometimes 16 bars of an
Wow.
idea. And I think the guys essentially pushed back on nothing. So yeah, I really just had the thing about Paradise Killer when I come to a starting point was because the music is a playlist system
Mhm.
that essentially works in, you go around the island, you start with 4 music tracks, and then you go around the open world environment collecting more music tracks, and you can make your own playlist, and they play back sort of diegetically in the world.
Mhm.
So I knew that I had to have a spectrum of stuff that was appropriate for the various settings within the game, and that was just really cut up into sort of styles and, I guess, dynamics. So we have like kind of city pop style stuff, and then we have a couple of kind of vaporwave style things, some kind of dancier things, and then like some kind of more ambient stuff. So it was really just going demo by demo, track by track, writing up as much of it as I could, and then going to the next track and being like, well, let's do something different for that.
Mhm.
And then also, every time I finished something new, I could go back to something old and work to try and tie that together, because the whole soundtrack ties together sonically as well as thematically, because we use a lot of like leitmotifs and stuff like that. So yeah, it was really just constantly keeping an eye on the whole product as I wrote new stuff.
And how did you find that, kind of having to kind of almost edit yourself?
It was great. I'm a total revisionist. Like, I thrive on being a revisionist. So it was great to come to something in a new piece of music that inspired something in a previous piece of music. So yeah, I loved writing like that. It was the first couple of tracks, as you're finding your way in it, I was like, right, it's good, it's going well. But then when I got into the later tracks, I just was like, through nothing other than just wanting to push myself, just really going for it, like seeing how far I could push the envelope and still make it appropriate to the game. So it was great. I loved it.
Did I see somewhere that the soundtrack is getting a physical release?
Yes, Black Screen Records are putting it out on vinyl.
That's sick.
You can pre-order it now. It's out in February, and it's the most lavish. It's the most lavish package ever. It's like on a transparent blue and pink vinyl. It comes with an A2 poster, an enamel pin badge. It's
Don't tempt me. Don't
it's the
tempt me.
it's the most
Honestly,
deluxe thing. Honestly, it's extremely luxurious. So.
honestly, you should see the amount of vinyl I've been buying. I'm like, I've said to myself only this morning, I said, no vinyl in November because it's PlayStation 5 month. So
Aye. That PS5 is a lot of vinyl, so isn't it? It's like 100 vinyls
no, I
on there.
know, and I'm running out of space actually to store it. So
Aye.
I'm gonna have a conversation with the other half and see what we're gonna do, because
Convert the attic. That's the
what
next
we
step.
have, that's
Oh, we've
it's
run
the
out of
cinema
options.
room, and he's got all his vinyl upstairs with him, and he's got these like special boxes and keeps them all up there, and because he
That's so
collects quite
cool.
rare vinyl, like really really rare vinyl. He's got test pressings, and he's a massive big Pet Shop Boys fan, so he's got
Nice.
absolutely tons of that stuff. Um, but yeah, upstairs is a cinema room for us. It's got like a big flat screen TV and surround sound, and yeah,
Very, very cool.
it's nice. That's what happens when you have kids.
Yes, I'm slowly starting to fill my house with vinyl now. So,
Mhm.
but at least the good thing about vinyl is at least it's an old medium, but you can
Yeah,
still enjoy it. Whereas if you're collecting like laser discs
and
or
it's
something,
crazy because it's like Lego. It doesn't depreciate in value.
aye,
For example, I bought a Kami, the
mhm.
box set for that, and that was like 70 quid, but it's worth over 300 now.
There you go.
Yep, like Horizon Zero Dawn, The Last of Us, bought The Last of Us 2 next one, so it's all kind of an investment, as they say.
Mhm.
But
No,
yeah,
that's a good way to look at it. It's like
I
Fabergé
started
eggs, right?
collecting. Yeah, I mean, I started collecting vinyl before I even had a record player.
Yeah, that's the position I was in for a long time too. I've got all the Castlevania vinyls in for like good 2 years. Couldn't listen to them on anything. So, but all my vinyls on the wall, like I'll have it all framed. So now it has to come off the wall to be listened to, which is
Oh, okay, okay. See, all mine at the minute, we've got like a little table in the sitting room, and
mm,
it's underneath that, and it's just sort of lined up. So I'll
no,
send
that's
you a
cool.
picture when we get
No,
when
that's
we
really
finish.
cool.
Um, but yeah, I completely run out of space now, so we need to have a conversation because we've got like a bookshelf. We've got like bookshelves in a nook in the corner, and we keep a lot of wood underneath. Yeah, as I told you, they're gone now. But yeah, so I'm hoping to kind of steal some of that space for it.
You'll need to make room for the Paradise Killer vinyl. So
It must be really nice as a composer though to see that there is a demand for your music in that kind of way.
right from as soon as we launched the game, people were asking me when's it coming out on vinyl. So I was like, I don't know. But we're really lucky that the dealing with Black Screen Records has been amazing. Like the guy that we're dealing with there, Kevin, is like so nice, and he was a big believer in the music before it was even really out, because we got a track on their Sounds of Summer indie game compilation.
Oh yeah, I've got that. I've got that on the way as well.
Yes, we have our title tracks on there, so that was like our in. Yeah, and I was like, do you fancy putting this out on vinyl? And they did. So I've not done a physical release like since I was like much younger, and when I was doing stuff in bands when we were like putting out CDs. So so this is not only the first physical release I've done in a while, but having it on, like I said, such a luxury set is going to be pretty
I am going to go and
special.
have a look at it now.
Honestly, it looks amazing too. I'm absolutely delighted with the whole vibe. I think it's a very nice thing.
It's for me personally, it's really lovely to see people succeed like that and get that kind of recognition that people want to see their stuff out on physical release, and for even me, for seeing friends who've done that, like Jessica's Little Orpheus is coming out shortly on vinyl, which is gorgeous. And then my friend Steve and John Pickford, they created Plock and Wetrix.
No, Plock.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of the Pickford's output, but Plock is an all-timer for me. Like I love Plock so much.
That came out on vinyl a couple of months ago, and like limited release, and it's all gone. I've got my signed copy downstairs.
Oh, did you get it signed?
Yeah, Steve sent me one. So I mean, Steve and John are friends of mine for 14 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and every well, apart from this year, obviously, we go to John's, and we go to like a beer festival, kind of October, November time. But obviously, that's not happening this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course.
It'll be.
I never managed to get Plock, but like, I love that game. I love Tim Fallen as well, obviously. Like,
I've even got the soundtrack on tape.
On tape?
Yeah, Steve got me a copy. He gave it to me a few months ago. Before
that was. Plock is one of the earliest games I can remember just not playing it, just to listen to the music, just like putting the controller down. I think it's great. Like there are so many bits in that soundtrack that go full prog rock as well, which I never noticed at the time. But going back to it as an adult, I was like, "There you go, that's it."
What was the kind of? Because then you've just hit on something that reminded me. What was the kind of game that you went, oh, hang on a second, and like Plock, that you were like, that's the game that kind of started it all for me. That's the soundtrack I remember the most. Like,
probably one of two games. Final Fantasy VII was a massive game for me. It was like such an important video game because of the age I was when I played it, how often I played it. Just it was the exact right time that I got into that game, and the soundtrack for that was the first game I ever played with headphones, like full terrible headphone experience, like plugged directly into the monitor. And this game, Mystical Ninja, starring Goemon for the N64, that's probably the one that got me most started on. I want to write music for video games because that has so many styles in it, and it was original to me, and it brought a lot of stuff sonically that I'd never heard before. Stuff like, I always say I love the Hammond organ, and people always think like, oh, because you love prog rock. It's like, no, it's because I heard it in Mystical Ninja. There's like tons of Hammond organ in there, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but it's amazing. Yeah, so much stuff like that came from like kind of Japanese games with like fusion style soundtracks.
I think for me it was a game on the Amstrad 464, Solomon's Key.
No, Solomon's Key.
Yeah, you dissolve blocks and you make blocks and you jump on them.
Aye.
Yeah. That was the one for me. That just blew my mind. I think I was about 6.
That's the first. I think I can barely. I have a lot of early gaming experiences because my dad was always into computers, and he had a Commodore 64 and an A500 and an A1200 that I was essentially never allowed to play. But I just watched. So I remember specifically for years, I thought 1942 was Bomb Jack. I didn't understand that those were different games, and I just thought because you were a plane and you bombed stuff that was so for until like my teens, I was like, I think the first game I ever saw was Bomb Jack, and people were like,
My
"That's not."
sister, who is not a gamer, she loved that game.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
she
cool.
loved it.
There's
Crazy.
something about the charm of those old games, is
Mm,
especially some of the Amiga, like the Amiga stuff. They're so like uniquely charming, I think.
definitely. I mean, I still love listen to stuff like New Zealand Story.
Yes, all that early title stuff is so good.
Yeah. Absolutely. They it blows my mind when I listen to stuff. And I've got a really good friend of mine, Jamie. He does a lot of video game covers.
Mhm.
I must send you a link to his stuff because it's mind-blowingly good how the stuff that
Cool.
he's done. Like he's
That'd be good.
done Whiz Ball and Sonic 2 and The Last Ninja. It's so good. You know,
Cool.
he's insanely talented. He used to actually be a co-host with me on the show, um, but then obviously he's decided to step back, and the show's kind of changed anyway. It's kind of
Mhm.
progressed to doing this now. So
Yeah.
um, this is the first time kind of ever that I've done something solo. So it's a
Mhm.
big learning curve for me, but it's been really exciting because we've got our own YouTube channel now. We're and obviously we're on Spotify, and we have been for a long time. And excuse me, my own website and all that kind of stuff. So it's been really cool.
It's great to have people that you can talk to about your work. Like for me as a composer, that's a lot of fun. That
Yeah.
people actually want to talk to me about my work. It's like,
So
would you like to talk about your work? Yes.
yeah,
I would love that.
and I think one of the big things for me was last year I did EGX, both Res and the main show, um,
Mhm.
where I moderated a panel. So the first
Okay.
panel we had James Hannigan, Joris de Man, David Houston, and Richard Jack, um, all on the panel, and it was so busy they had to shut the doors and stop people coming in. And it
That's
was like
cool.
4
That's
deep
really
at the
cool.
back and 2 deep at the side, and people like I was up on the lectern, and my phone was on, and I was getting messages saying I can't come in, and I was like I can't answer them, I'm too busy, but it was really nice because that was the main concern for me, that nobody was going to turn up, and we'd be like 5 people stood in a room going, well, this is crap, but it turned out to be mega busy. And then
Mhm.
doing the main one with Joe from the Flight, David DeGale.
Aye, that's the good thing about those EGX panels.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's cool. Because I think with panels like that as well, you probably always are uncertain about what they're going to be like. But
Mm-hmm.
like again, like we were saying about kind of people that are interested in this stuff, like people are really interested in it.
Yeah, and
Which is
it's been brilliant, and I definitely want to do more
mm,
because there is nothing better than that feeling than standing on stage and doing your thing and knowing that you can do it.
yeah.
Um, and it's also slightly terrifying because you're being seen by your peers.
Mm,
Other podcasters, other composers. It's strange when I stand on stage and I look down to the audience, A, seeing people that I know, like friends, and B,
mm,
seeing other composers that I know. And it's like, I didn't know you were going to be there. And they were just sat in the audience watching. It's like, that kind of blows my mind.
yeah. No, that's cool though. Like it's good. It seems to be a good time for it. Good
Yeah.
time to be like involved in music, especially as it's related to games.
So obviously it's nearly November. So will you be dipping in on the PlayStation 5?
Honestly, the place I would not. You could not pay me to put something that massive in my living room, and I
Oh,
cannot. I cannot cop
dreading
a
it.
next gen
It's like
console.
this big.
I just can't. I can't justify having something that massive in my living room that just plays video games. Because The reason that I fell out of love with my PS4 is the noise issue. It's unplayable, right? And I've got an Xbox that I really like, but even getting an Xbox Series X, it's like it's big. It won't fit in my current TV unit.
They're massive. I think the PlayStation 5 looks great, but it's huge. And
It's
then
absolutely
the
huge.
Series X, Jesus, just a big black box.
I think upright it looks all right, but on its side it looks so egregiously
Yeah,
horrible on its side, and that's pretty much the only way I could have it is
yeah,
on its
because
side. So
it's super massive. But
yeah, so I don't know. I'm pretty happy to. I play my Switch mostly because for years before the Switch came out, because I was just always wanted to. I was like, imagine you could play the big telly games anywhere,
mhm.
and then when Switch came out, it's like that's it. I can play the big telly games anywhere. So yeah, I do tons of like short, sharp bursts of playing games now. So yeah, I think next gen it's. I'm probably going to wait a while to get back into like the sofa gaming experience. But yeah, I've not really decided what I'm going to go for because the
Oh,
tough thing is PlayStation will always have the exclusives.
yeah, totally,
But
totally.
like Game Pass represents value,
Yeah.
and we love value. It can't be
Mhm.
value.
Game
So
Pass is obscene in value terms.
it's crazy. It really
Yeah.
is.
I mean,
So I
you were
don't know.
talking
I
about,
will eventually. I'll probably get something, but I need to wait until they're significantly smaller in size. I think.
yeah, I'm the same. I'm definitely going to go in the Xbox, but it's just too big. I've got the space. And I'd be
Yeah,
worried about getting the S because it's not enough memory.
I know. And those like peripheral, like tertiary memory cards are super expensive
Yeah,
as
like
well.
they're
So
almost the same price as the bloody console.
I know, but since they do that all access thing with Klarna, where you pay
Yes,
for it monthly, it's hard to resist paying
I know.
26, 27 pound a month for a next gen console and a bunch of
Yeah,
free games.
exactly.
I don't
And
know.
Game Pass, you don't even have to buy anything.
I know that's the good thing is that they put so much weight behind Game Pass now that it's not you don't have to find stuff to play. You
Mm.
just it's there.
PlayStation Now,
Uh, never I never tried it, but I just knew it wasn't gonna.
no, definitely not. So, but I'm definitely going to be. I'll be there on launch day for PlayStation 5. I've got money squirreled away, and I'm just waiting for the Amazon to email me and say it's on its way.
How do you feel about £70 video games though?
That not so great. Um, I mean, I'll pay. It's very rare I'll buy something on launch, um,
Yeah.
in a game, but when I do, it has to be fairly special. And as you mentioned earlier, Klarna is a great thing because I bought like The Last of Us 2 on that, and it was 16 quid for over a few months,
Oh,
and
that's
that
pretty
I
good.
don't mind doing, because I think putting 70 quid down straight for a game, like say for tomorrow, I would balk at that.
Yeah, PlayStation stuff doesn't hold its value either. I mean,
Mm,
Nintendo stuff is always expensive, which is anti-consumer in a way, but
mm,
also good
mm,
because you can sell it for the price you bought it pretty much.
yeah,
But PlayStation stuff is really bad for that. You buy it for 50 quid and then 2 months later it's 19.99. And
or even
because I
cheaper.
do that a lot, I buy games and then I complete them and then I sell them because
Mhm.
I'm not sentimental about holding on to a lot of
I
stuff.
used to, and I've kind of started keeping hold of them because I've done that before and then gone, oh, I really want to replay that, and you go, well, I can't because I've sold it. And it's like not ones that
Uh,
are easily able to get because you're going to
aye.
pay a premium for them because they're rare as hen's teeth, like Alice Madness Returns, Portal 2, things like that. Duh.
Is
But
Portal 2 rare, is it?
ish.
That's
So
interesting.
I think I've got my copy in the other room. So, but yeah,
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how. Yeah, it's interesting to see how next gen games are changing, especially because I know that the argument behind it is well, games are more expensive to make now, so they
yeah,
have to
yeah,
cost more
totally.
money, and people have to be like, oh, look at the Argos catalog from 1993. It's like games cost £60 back then. It's like
Yeah,
aye, but they were too expensive
yeah.
then as well. So I don't know. It's hard. I can see both sides of it, but
Mm,
as in a purely consumer brain,
mm.
selfish consumer brain, see a 70 quid video game and I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you.
So
So,
yeah.
um, what do you think is going to come next for you?
Um, I really
You
I
taking
don't know
time off?
what, but in terms of hopes,
Mm,
there's just so much stuff I would love to work on. There are so many types of games I would love to work on, and so many because I feel like, I mean, I'm sure any composer feels like this. I feel like I could do anything. Like
mm,
I'm so hungry to do stuff that I could do anything in pretty much any style, and get a massive amount of enjoyment out of it. So I'm just really hoping that my next project is something like Paradise Killer, that because I mean, Paradise Killer was such a dream project because not only did I have the amount of freedom that I had, I got to put so much of myself into the
mm,
identity of the game, because such a huge focus in the game is the music.
mhm.
So, something, if it's something even half as ideal for me as Paradise Killer, that would be, beyond brilliant. But yeah, I'm just working on stuff. Yeah, I've got, like I said, a bunch of smaller projects, and I'm just kind of being patient and waiting to see what my next big project is going to be. But
Oh, we can't wait.
yeah, I can't wait to get started on it either. I am so close to being able to basically just compose full time.
Good.
Like, not going to take a lot for me to be able to just never have to edit a video ever again. So, so fingers crossed.
But I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to come on the show. Really appreciate it. It's been a really great chat. But I think we've come to the end of the interview.
Yeah, well, thanks very much for having me. I look forward to doing this again at some point.
Yeah, definitely. When you can tell us about your next big thing.
Yes, exactly.
Well, have a good day and we'll speak soon.
You too, man. Thanks very much.
No worries. And if anybody wants to catch you, they can get you on Twitter at
No Stopping Epoch, which is hard to spell, so you'll find me, don't worry.
Yeah. And you can get me at Evil Noob. So we will see you soon. Take care.
Bye.